Hey, so I just saw Captain America Brave New World, and man, I didn't think it was very good. Initially, I wasn't going to do a review on it, but I don't know, I have some strong feelings about how not that strong I felt about it. If that makes any sense. Anyway, it's about as simple as that. Let's get to it. So first up, I just got to say that this felt like 2 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that were just packed together, and it didn't even feel like good episodes at that. Like, this felt like 2 bad episodes of a Disney Plus TV show. I'm definitely not praising it when I say that. And overall, it just made me feel like it was just like so boring. This was just such a snooze fest. There's just something about it that lacked any charisma. The film itself lacked charisma or excitement. And it had me questioning after this and a few other bad MCU films, is it the MCU or is it me who was growing apart from the other? I think the answer is probably a little bit of both, but it's just this pattern where I keep saying that I'm losing interest in these things, right? But then as soon as I possibly can, as soon as they come out, I go see them. I keep falling for it for some reason. And when it comes to seeing a film as soon as I possibly can, and it's a film like this, it becomes a question for my own sanity. Anyway, let's talk some positivity. The good part of this, the good aspects in this, I will say that grumpy old man Harrison Ford is always something to enjoy. I love him. I can't help it. And I will also say that there is one single scene in this whole film that felt like a real movie scene where Harrison Ford is having an emotional conversation with somebody on the phone. I couldn't believe my eyes when the film was actually managing to do something to make me feel anything, even if just for a fleeting moment I could at least see some semblance of efforts and just goodness. And it was really just this one scene, because the bad was everything else. This movie, man, there's not a lot of good here. There's not a lot to praise, and it's unfortunate. I think a big part to do with me not enjoying the film is that it also has a lot of setup to do with its mystery, where its main characters are trying to solve things. And the things they're trying to solve are like things that we already know the answers to immediately. They're like, oh, what would make somebody act irrationally and then forget about what they've done? And it's like they say that as if we didn't, for one, just hear the most obvious like brainwashy music ever right before somebody got purposefully brainwashed and did something bad, right? But it's also the fact that this is literally what the Winter Soldier's storyline is. You know, the guy who the main character was like partners with for however long, and what, he doesn't think to be like, maybe it's the exact same fucking thing? And then they continue to set up more mystery as to like, oh no, what's the bad guy's plan? What's going to happen to Harrison Ford if he doesn't take these mysterious pills that he's been taking? And bro, it's in the fucking marketing of the film. Like, I'm sitting there like as they question things that I already know the answers to, and I'm like, this is just a waste of my fucking time. It's on the poster what happens if Harrison Ford stops taking the pills. Is it meant to be a mystery? I think we can all put 2 and 2 together. Another inherent issue that I have with this film and the preceding TV series that came before it is that when it comes to Sam Wilson as a character taking over the mantle for Captain America, I inherently have never really understood why anybody had to do that to begin with. Why wasn't he enough as just the Falcon? Why is Captain America any better? He spends all this time in this film and the TV show before it complaining about feeling like he's not enough, and it's just like, then don't have the same name as the guy that you want to live up to, you know, and then nobody will expect you to specifically live up to just this one guy. He can instead just be his own superhero, which he already was, the Falcon, which was cool to begin with. Why does he need to be Captain America? I don't really get it, and this film doesn't really justify it either. He still doesn't really feel like Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America. This is Sam Wilson. He's the Falcon. Also a good character, also fun and cool. I just don't see why it has to be a sort of like legacy character where it's like other characters filling in the mantle. It doesn't feel like it needs to go in that direction. And when it comes to this film, I don't know, it just makes me feel that even stronger. And now something really specific that I just want to complain about is that there's this one scene where he's talking about how he apparently never took the super soldier serum. This is Sam Wilson we're talking about. And it's kind of like trying to emphasize just how out of his league that he is. Like, he's facing off against like people who are like way bigger than him, threats that like he'll never be able to live up to and stuff. He's not as good as Steve Rogers, all these sorts of worries, you know, these concerns. But he says these things and raises these concerns about not being good enough and just being a normal guy, and like, he doesn't have superpowers like everyone else around him. How could he possibly be an Avenger? He says that when scenes just before, or possibly just after, because I don't actually remember the specific order of the scenes, but there is a scene where he is riding like flying on a missile like a surfboard for a moment. And it's just like, yeah, cool, Sam Wilson, you could have fooled me as being just a guy. And look, I get it, this is superhero movie stuff. It's alright to have these absurd things in there like that, but I got sick of the movie trying to continuously convince me that he's just an average Joe when he's obviously not. The point is, I absolutely did not enjoy this thing and honestly struggled through it. I thought about leaving multiple times. I was nearly falling asleep multiple times, and overall the movie just didn't make me feel anything. It didn't make me laugh at anything. In fact, whenever the movie did try to be funny, the humor just had me rolling my eyes. This is one sidekick character, cringe. But mainly though, the film also took itself so seriously, only for things to wrap up with no real consequence anyway. It's like, oh, this is this big serious thing for these characters and a big moment that we should all be paying attention to, but ultimately it just feels like it ends up being like it's a TV episode of the week and a filler episode at that, where it's just like, oh, look at this main bad guy for this episode, this single episode. Never gonna see him again. And even if the bad guy does return in a later film, I don't know, it still doesn't save the fact that it felt like that in the moment while I was watching this film. Ultimately, I think my biggest problem with it is just that it lacked any semblance of personality, and really it just felt like a filler episode for some like spy TV show or something like that. This could have easily dropped to Disney Plus. Nobody would have questioned it. Everybody would have just been like, yeah, this seems fitting and it's fine. But since it did come out to cinemas, since I did pay money to go see it, and since it's meant to be like a big deal, it's almost offensive. It's like, what is this just episode of the week bullshit? It doesn't feel like a Captain America movie like the ones that came out before it. And that's not just for a lack of Steve Rogers or Chris Evans or anything. It just lacks gravitas for whatever reason. It's hard to describe exactly why, but there's just something about it that is very, I think, obviously lacking, and I think objectively lacking. Look, I like Sam Wilson. I like Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. I just wish that he was in better things. I just wish they gave him better script, better projects, whatever it is. And I was just questioning, like, when you go back to the very first introduction of him as a character in the Winter Soldier film, and there's that scene where it's like on your left and stuff, that one singular scene where there's absolutely no build-up for this character or anything. We don't know who he is at that point. That one scene has more heart and humor than this entire film does, as an unestablished character who we didn't know at the time. I liked him immediately from that scene. And yeah, I don't know, just nothing in this could possibly live up to even just that singular scene, let alone everything else that he does throughout that film and the following one. Also, this has nothing to do with the movie, but I also just wanted to mention that I watched the Thunderbolts trailer for the first time before the movie started, like in cinemas, and it looks embarrassing. And I'm not usually this much of like some fucking negative Nancy or whatever, where I'm just like complaining about every single aspect and nitpicking everything. I'm not the type to just complain about things and shit on everything all the time. And I also barely say things like that because I feel like I hardly even have any right to, because I'm not a filmmaker and ultimately I have no real fucking clue what I'm even talking about to begin with. It's like, who gives me the right to complain about this stuff? But I don't know, man, the MCU is getting more and more cringed by the day. And yeah, that Thunderbolts movie just looks like it's trying way too hard to be the Suicide Squad. I think it's fairly obvious that's exactly what it's trying to be. It's just a trailer. I'm not reviewing that exactly, but it was just like I had a bad taste in my mouth from the very start. Anyway, so I guess that's about all that I have to say. Sorry I've been so negative in this one. I don't know, like I was talking to my friend Jax, who runs the Space Kraken Media YouTube channel, and we're both like complaining about every detail, shitting on this movie and stuff, and we're like, man, I feel like the Critical Drinker or something, you know, that piece of shit YouTuber. I really don't like that guy. We kind of felt like him being like, oh, this sucks, this is shit and everything. Maybe we weren't like him in every way, where we're like, oh, this movie's too woke or whatever shit he always says. But yeah, I don't know, overall we're just like, fuck, I feel bad for saying this much shit about it, but here we are. Movie sucked. What do you want me to say? So that's about all I have to say. Before you go, please do that things, which is like, comment, share, subscribe, all that shit. I'm outie. Goodbye. See ya, by the way, Friday for the last Dexter episode. Can't wait.